What's up everybody and welcome back to News Toast. So over the last couple years, Xbox Game Pass has kind of taken the game industry by storm. I mean, this is a service that at times almost feels like it's too good to be true, and because of that, there has been some fans out there that's wondered, how can Microsoft possibly make money off of a service like this? In order to do that, they're going to have to get a lot of subscriptions, and well, based off of a recent discussion between Phil Spencer and the Take-Two CEO, well, they might have let it slip on just how successful Xbox Game Pass really is, and it's getting pretty insane by this point. I mean, Xbox Game Pass is rapidly growing, so we're going to be talking about that here in just a little bit. Now, also, we do have a few acquisitions to talk about, one from PlayStation and then another one from a surprise publisher. Wasn't expecting this one, but we will talk about all of that as well. With all that said, though, let's just go and jump right into our first topic of the day, being about the PlayStation Plus October lineup. And this is quietly a pretty solid lineup yet again for PlayStation Plus. If you take a look here, PlayStation Plus subscribers will get Hell Let Loose for the PlayStation 5, Mortal Kombat X for the PlayStation 4, and then PGA Tour 2K21 for the PlayStation 4. Now, the reason I say this is quietly a pretty solid lineup for PlayStation Plus is because of Hell Let Loose. Now, Hell Let Loose is a game that's been available on Steam for a little while now, and it's got a pretty big fan base over there. It's estimated to have about 1 to 2 million owners, and it's this realistic World War II 100 multiplayer game. Supposed to be a realistic World War II shooter of like 50 versus 50 players. It's supposed to play quite a bit different than other games on the market, and this one will be releasing on consoles on October 5th. So this is a day one release for PlayStation Plus, and this is something that PlayStation has done a really good job with this generation. PlayStation Plus subscribers have gotten several day one releases this generation, and I think Hell Let Loose, I mean, this is an interesting one to say the least. Now, how it performs on consoles, that remains to be seen, but because the PlayStation 5 is a powerful console, I do expect this one to perform relatively well. Now, as for these other two games, I think Mortal Kombat X, that's the one that leaves a lot to be desired, just because this game is already available on the PlayStation Plus collection. So for PlayStation 5 owners who have access to the PlayStation Plus collection, Mortal Kombat X really adds nothing here. At the very least, it would have been nice to have gotten Mortal Kombat XL Edition. But either way, I still think that this is a relatively good overall lineup. Next up, we're going to be talking about that new Amazon game, New World. Now, you've probably heard about this game over the last 24 hours because this game right now is just absolutely blowing up. Now, I know Amazon has had a few failures in the past, but that's not the case at all with their new MMO, New World. This game is quickly rising to stardom, and in fact, it's already the most played new game in 2021 over on Steam. Yeah, that was previously Valheim, which peaked at around 500,000 concurrent players earlier this year, but New World has already risen above 700,000 concurrent players over on Steam. That peak is just absolutely insane, and to just kind of put that into perspective, that would place New World already with just its first 24 hours in the top 5 most concurrent players ever on Steam. If you take a look here, it sits behind games such as Cyberpunk 2077, Dota 2, Counter-Strike Go, and then PUBG Battlegrounds, which is the runaway winner here with 3.2 million concurrent players. Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be touching that record anytime soon, but New World got off to a fantastic start here. Now, one of the reasons for that is because there's some pretty big streamers right now playing New World, so that's going to have a big impact on New World. And, we'll kind of see what kind of longevity this game has, but yeah, I think Amazon has to be really happy with the launch of New World. Now, I myself am not necessarily a big fan of MMO, so I haven't tried New World myself yet, but if you have played it, let me know in the comments below on what you think about this game. Do you think it's a good game, and would you recommend trying it out? Let me know in the comments below. Let's go and talk about Xbox Game Pass, though, because it sounds like they might have let a major Xbox Game Pass subscription milestone slip in an interview. Now, you're going to have to kind of take this one as a rumor for the time being, just because Microsoft hasn't 100% confirmed this publicly, but the source here is highly interesting, to say the least. So basically what's happening here is the Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick and ex-boss Phil Spencer was being interviewed by Fireside Chat with Yahoo. And yeah, let's just go and check out this awkward exchange between Strauss Zelnick and Phil Spencer. The exchange starts off with Strauss Zelnick saying, "Phil didn't pitch his own service," which he could, "but you've got about 30 million subs, Phil," something like that. Then Phil Spencer kind of laughs this off and responds, "The last public numbers we announced was 18 million. And then it almost kind of seemed like Zelnick realized his mistake here because, Xbox hasn't publicly announced anything. And he says, "Oh, for some reason I thought it was more." He then laughs and says, "It's more than 18 million anyways." And then after that, it just seemed like they tried to brush this to the side the best they could. But yeah, it does sound like Zelnick might have possibly let us slip on how many Xbox Game Pass subscribers they have already, which around 30 million is absolutely insane. Now, he does say around 30 million. He doesn't say 30 million exactly. So this could be 27 million. It could be 28 million. It could be 31 million. I mean, we don't really know. But to have that amount of subscribers already is very, very impressive. The last public numbers that we got was 18 million back in January, and here we are less than a year later, and we're already hearing that it might be near 30 million subscribers. That is extremely rapid growth. Now, like I said before, though, this isn't necessarily 100% confirmation just because Microsoft themselves aren't publicly stating the subscription count for Xbox Game Pass, but at the same time, Strauss Zelnick is in a position to know how many subscribers Xbox Game Pass has. He did actually say earlier in the chat that they do talk about Xbox Game Pass quite a bit, and I mean, it is important for Take-Two to understand the logistics behind Xbox Game Pass. They do put games in there every once in a while, such as Grand Theft Auto 5. They've put in Red Dead Redemption 2 into Xbox Game Pass, and it is important for him to know how many subscribers they have. So with Take-Two already partnering up with Xbox Game Pass several times in the past, and him being the CEO, yeah, if anybody's in position to know how many subscribers Xbox Game Pass has, it would be him. So yeah, from the sounds of it, Xbox Game Pass is rapidly growing right now, and what's kind of crazy about all this is that I don't even really think Xbox Game Pass has reached its full potential yet. And what I mean by that is that Xbox has acquired all of these big studios in recent years. I mean, somehow they managed to get Bethesda, which is still almost hard to believe. They've acquired studios like Playground Games, NXL, Obsidian Entertainment, and so many more. And these studios have yet to really release their big games yet into Xbox Game Pass. So once you start to see these new studios release their games, such as Hellblade 2, you got The Elder Scrolls 6, the next Doom game, there's Redfall coming out, Starfield, and the next Fable game, and all of these other new games that they're working on, that's when Xbox Game Pass has the potential to really skyrocket. And when you really start to think about it, one of Xbox's most important IPs, of course, is Halo. We haven't seen a big Halo since Xbox Game Pass launched. And, well, that's about to change this December. We are going to get Halo Infinite, and that's going to be a big point for not only the Xbox Series X, but also for Xbox Game Pass. That's going to be a pivotal point, and it'll be really interesting to see how much Xbox Game Pass grows once Halo Infinite launches. I mean, if it is true that they're already around 30 million without Halo, I mean, that is just so extremely impressive, and it just seems like Xbox Game Pass is growing faster than what any of us expected. Really, though, kudos to Xbox for putting together such a great service, and they do deserve the success that they're getting right now because just month in and month out, they really do bring a lot of great games to that service. Moving on, though, we do have a couple of acquisitions to talk about today. Seems like almost every week there's a big acquisition anymore, and the first of which here is actually coming from PlayStation. Yeah, PlayStation has acquired quite a few studios over the last year, and interestingly enough, they did acquire a new studio today, though I would say this is more of an absorption based off of this statement. So this one is really interesting because they did acquire Firesprite just a couple of weeks ago. Firesprite is a big AAA studio that's worked on some PlayStation VR games in the past, such as Persistence. They also have several former PlayStation employees there that's worked on the Wipeout games. So Firesprite was a very fitting move for PlayStation Studios. I think it's actually a perfect partnership between the two, as it just seems like they're Liverpool 2.0. Unfortunately, Sony did shut them down years ago, but it almost seems like Sony actually reacquired them here with Firesprite Studios. But interestingly enough, Firesprite has now acquired their own studio since that acquisition. So this is an acquisition inside of an acquisition. I'm not sure I've seen anything quite like this before, but yes, Firesprite Studios has acquired Fabrik Games. Now, if you take a look at their statement, though, this acquisition does make sense, as they do say this: "We have a history working and collaborating closely with Firesprite. There's a huge amount of creative and cultural alignment already, and the entire team is excited to be on board. We can't wait to show everyone what we're capable of." So they have already worked together in the past, and apparently they did help each other bring Persistence to multiple platforms. Of course, Persistence was originally a PlayStation VR title, but here with Fabrik Games, they were able to bring it to standard platforms as well. So I do think that this is an interesting acquisition, and this is for multiple reasons. One, this now brings Firesprite Studio up to 265 employees. So this is a surprisingly very large studio. In fact, it's one of Sony's largest studios right now. So they have the potential of making some big games if they truly want to. Now, they are apparently working on a couple of games, which are more than likely PlayStation VR titles, but I think with Fabrik Games here, they could possibly bring these VR titles to, again, standard platforms as well. This is something that we did talk about last week, but there was a rumor going around that PlayStation was focused on bringing PlayStation VR games to standard platforms this generation, so they won't just be VR exclusives. I don't know if that's true or not, but with the acquisition of Fabrik Games, I do wonder if maybe there is some truth to that after all. Nonetheless, though, Firesprite Studios is now a very, very big studio, and they really do have the potential of working on some big games throughout this generation. We'll kind of have to wait and see what exactly they're working on, but there was a job listing not long ago that does show that they are working on a AAA sci-fi horror title, which makes sense with them working on Persistence in the past. There was also a rumor of them working on a Horizon game with VR functionality. So yeah, that one sounds really interesting, and yeah, I mean, it sounds like they have some ambitious games in development, and we'll see how all this plays out, but Firesprite Studios is now a very large studio with the acquisition of Fabrik Games. Now, we do have one more acquisition to talk about here real quick, and that is a Netflix acquisition. This one caught me by surprise, but last night it was announced that Netflix acquired Night School Studios. And this is actually a pretty high-profile acquisition here, as Night School Studios is well known in the indie game community. They have worked on hit titles such as Oxenfree and are now currently working on Oxenfree 2 for the Nintendo Switch. So this was a big surprise here because it does show you how serious Netflix is with their gaming division. Now, they've talked about this a lot throughout the year. They're going to be entering gaming, but I think for some people out there, I mean, they were thinking maybe this was just going to be smaller mobile games, but well, that doesn't appear to be the case after all, with Netflix picking up a pretty high-profile studio here in Night School Studios. I, however, do find this to be a pretty fitting combo, though, and it is something that Netflix pointed out, but it does feel like a good combination with Netflix picking up a studio that focuses on like interactive storytelling. So I think the acquisition does make sense from that perspective, but there's still a lot of questions that remains about this acquisition, and I think the biggest one for console and PC players is, will Netflix still allow Night School Studios to release their games on consoles and PC? That's the big question right now. Will they do that, or will they instead try to make this exclusive to Netflix's platform to bring in more subscribers? You know, we don't really know the full plans that Netflix has right now for their gaming division. I mean, it does sound like they're pretty serious about this after all, especially with this acquisition. But I think when you take a look at something like Amazon as an example, I mean, we're seeing Amazon release their games on other platforms as well. I mean, New World just released to a ton of success. So I think with Netflix, that would probably make the most sense to continue to release Night School Studios games on other platforms. But, you know, all this is new. I mean, we're just going to have to kind of wait and see what happens here. But let me know what you think about this in the comments below. How do you feel about Netflix entering the gaming world? Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. With the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series almost being a year old by this point, it's kind of hard to believe that, but yes, these consoles are almost a year old, and they're still selling out incredibly fast. neither one of these platforms, being the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, has met that initial demand yet. And I wanted to see how many of you all are still struggling to get the console or consoles that you want. And well, 36% of you said that yes, you are still struggling to get the console that you want. Then 40% of you said no, you got the one console you wanted, while 14% said no, you got them both. So the majority of you, being 54%, did say that you have gotten what you wanted, but still 36% is alarmingly high almost 1 year into the generation. Based off this poll here, it still sounds like we still got a ways to go before we reach that initial demand. I mean, the Xbox Series is the fastest selling Xbox ever, and the PlayStation 5 is the fastest selling PlayStation ever. So they are putting out plenty of stock out there. So, I mean, you're going to get plenty of opportunities. But even though they've sold a lot of units, I still understand the frustration that comes with actually purchasing these consoles. They are hard to get. I've had to do it several times over the last year. At launch, I was lucky enough to get the Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5 digital. But after that, I did go back and decide to get a PlayStation 5 standard version, and I also picked up the Nintendo Switch OLED. Both of these consoles were incredibly hard to pick up as well, and what I will recommend you all do is follow Twitter alert accounts. I know this is really annoying to do, but basically what you're going to do is follow these alert accounts on Twitter. You're going to turn on notifications and then keep your phone with you at all times. Now, your notifications are going to blow up like all day long, which is really annoying. But if you follow people like Wario64 and Jake Randall, I mean, they are very helpful. I was able to follow them, and I was lucky enough to basically get the consoles that I wanted within a week of following them and turning my notifications on. There's also apps that you can install on your phone, such as Hotstock. That's very helpful as well. Again, I understand it's annoying and everything like that, but if you're willing to put in that extra effort, it is very possible to get these platforms. Frustrating, but still possible nonetheless. So just keep trying, and of course, I wish you all the best of luck. I really do hope that you all get the console or consoles that you want sooner rather than later. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.